guys, it's Jordan and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about all the books that I read in August. So August kind of fell a little flat for me in the reading department compared to how I've been reading in the past couple of months for two reasons, I think. The first being that there's a particular book that I pushed myself to read this month, and usually when I push myself to read a book, I end up kind of falling into a bit of a funk. I wasn't really in a slump because I really wanted to read, I just didn't want to read the book that I was trying to push myself to read. So that happened. And then secondly, TV just took over my life this month. Desperately wanted to get caught up on the Vampire Diaries before that came back in October. There was a crossover event with the originals. In order to watch the crossover event, I had to watch the originals, which I was an entire season behind on. So I watched 22 episodes of the originals and 8 episodes of the Vampire Diaries. That's 30 hours of TV, a lot of reading time that I spent doing other things. So because of those two things, my reading was a little less impressive than previous months. Let's go ahead and check in with my TBR and see how I really did do this month. I don't think it was that great. So as you can see, I only completed 2 of the books on that list. The first book I read this month was The Savage Song by Victoria Schwab, and I gave this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. This is my first book by Victoria Schwab, and I have to say that I'm underwhelmed. This book had received a lot of hype when it first came out, but I feel like the hype is more surrounding the author than the actual book. Even though people were screaming praise of this book from the rooftops, I feel like it was more enjoyable for them because they've had this positive experience with Victoria Schwab in the past, and I haven't read anything from her, and personally I don't feel like this was the best way to be introduced to her. I really liked the world, but I felt like the characters and everything else that was going on kind of fell a little bit flat. The world is definitely the star of the show, and everything else I didn't really necessarily care about. The first portion of the book is very heavily dedicated to characterization, a lot less focused on the plot. Even though I was intrigued and gripped from the beginning, I was intrigued in that beginning section because of the world. However, the second half, when the plot really picks up and the action starts to happen, I became much more invested in it, and I really felt like it became a better book. I did do a whole non-spoiler book review for this book. I'll go ahead and link that on the screen if you want to check it out. I do plan to read the second because it's only a duology. So at this point, I kind of went completely off the rails with my TBR list because I had picked up a book that I wasn't really feeling. So I needed a book that I was going to love. So I picked up The Conspiracy of Us by Maggie Hall, which I gave a 4.5 or 5 out of 5 stars. I can't remember. I absolutely loved this so much. It's probably going to be in my top 10 best books of the year because it was that phenomenal. It appeals to so many different facets of my interests: history and conspiracy theories and clue searching and YA and love triangles, and I just love all of that. And it was all here and done really, really well, and I just freaking adored this book. It reminds me of a YA version of The Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown, mixed with a little bit of Chasing Liberty and a little bit of National Treasure. But I got a ton of The Da Vinci Code vibes from this, for sure. So if you like that series and you like YA, I think that this cross of the two, you will love. I did do an entire non-spoiler book review for this one as well, and I will go ahead and link that on the screen if you want to check it out. It's pretty much a 5-minute video about me gushing my feelings because I couldn't form coherent sentences. So naturally, the minute I finished that book, I ordered the second one off of Amazon. So when that came in the mail, I picked up Map of Fates by Maggie Hall, which is the sequel to The Conspiracy of Us, and this one I gave a 5 out of 5 stars as well. I liked this one even better than the first book. Other side of the love triangle that we get in this book, Stellan. Oh, I really, really enjoyed Avery and Jack's journey in the first book. I thought they were a great pair, and I didn't really know how Stellan could top my feelings for Jack, even though I knew from Lainey, from Ginger Reads Lainey, that Stellan was amazing. This is really off topic. I loved Avery and Stellan in this book even more. I think that Avery becomes a much more fleshed out, well-rounded character. There's a lot more growth and depth for her in this book. In the first book, she's a little overshadowed by the 2 boys because they're really fleshed out and really well-rounded, and we get more about her in this book, and it's phenomenal, and I loved it, and I can't wait for the 3rd book to come out because I need it so badly. Can't wait to see where the series goes. I've been screaming its praises from the rooftops, and I'm going to keep doing it because this is a new favorite of mine. And then after I finished that book, I finally finished. This book took me a good like 3 weeks to read. This is the book that I wasn't really feeling, and that is Ghost Talkers by Mary Robinette Kowal. And I ended up giving this a 3 out of 5 stars. I picked up an arc of this at BEA. I really don't know how I feel about this book. Like, it was a good book. It's a solid book. I don't think I was in the right mood for it, and I pushed myself to read it. It's not a bad book. It has a lot of really interesting components to it, and I think I could have enjoyed it a lot more had I not read it in that way. It is a World War I story about this woman named Ginger, who is a part of the Spirit Corps, which is a division of the Allied powers military that is full of mediums that speak to the ghosts of dead soldiers to gain information. The Germans discover that they're doing this and want to kind of corrupt or destroy this system because it's very beneficial when you can talk to your dead soldiers and find out what really happened. It ends up putting Ginger on this wild goose chase to find out this traitor that's in their midst that could be selling their secrets. Once the book got going, I got into the meat of the book towards the second half of it. I was getting more into it and more invested, and I enjoyed it a little bit more, but it took me a really long time to get into the story. Not that it was a slow thing or anything like that, I just think it was the type of novel and the fact that I was really in the mood for something more like this and a little less like this. You know what I'm saying? So if you really like adult literature and you like historical fiction and you like something a little bit of a paranormal edge to it, I would say to give this a try. These are the 4 books that I read this month. Absolutely loved 2 of them, and 2 of them were kind of on the side for me, so it was a 50-50 reading month. I would love to know what you read this month. Tell me in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, I'll talk to you very soon. Bye!